The alarm bells of Outpost Delta 7 screamed across the barren landscape of Kepler 442b, their shrill warning cutting through the perpetual twilight of the frontier world. Commander Sarah Chen pressed her palm against the cold metal of the observation deck's railing, watching crimson warning lights paint the rocky terrain in bloody hues. 3 years she had commanded this remote station on the edge of human space, and never once had the long-range sensors detected anything more threatening than asteroid debris or cosmic radiation storms. Today was different. The holographic display floating before her showed 17 massive signatures dropping out of hyperspace at the system's edge, their energy readings unlike anything in the Terran database. Each vessel measured over 2 kilometers in length, bristling with weapon arrays that made humanity's most advanced battleships look like patrol boats. "Commander, incoming transmission on all frequencies," reported Lieutenant Marcus Webb from the communications station. His voice carried the steady professionalism that had made him her most trusted officer, but Chen could hear the underlying tension. "It's broadcasting in Old Galactic Standard, ma'am. The Universal Translator is having trouble with some of the syntax, but the meaning is clear enough." Chen nodded grimly. Old Galactic Standard hadn't been used for active communication in over 3 centuries, existing only in archaeological records and ancient databases. Whatever was out there represented something far older and more dangerous than the usual pirates or smugglers who occasionally tested the frontier defenses. "Put it through, Lieutenant." The voice that filled the command center was deep and resonant, carrying an authority that seemed to vibrate through the station's hull plating. Even filtered through the translation matrix, the words carried an unmistakable tone of absolute dominance. "Primitive mammals of the third spiral arm, you have trespassed upon the sacred boundaries of the Zephyrian Imperium for the final time. Your species' unauthorized expansion into sovereign galactic territory ends now. This system and all adjacent star clusters are hereby reclaimed under Imperial Mandate 77 Alpha. You have 1 planetary rotation to evacuate all personnel and installations, or face immediate pacification protocols." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the command center in stunned silence. Chen stared at the tactical display, her mind racing through the implications. The Zephyrian Imperium was legend, a ghost story told in military academies about an ancient galactic power that had supposedly vanished millennia ago. According to the historical records, they had once controlled vast swaths of the galaxy before retreating into the galactic core regions for reasons unknown. "Ma'am, should I relay this to Terran Command?" Webb asked, his fingers already moving toward the quantum communicator controls. "Absolutely. Priority Alpha transmission, full encryption. Tell them we have a first contact situation that requires immediate fleet response." Chen paused, studying the alien formations on her screen. "Also send a copy of all sensor data. Command needs to understand what we're dealing with." The quantum burst transmission would take 18 hours to reach Earth, and another 6 hours for any meaningful response. The aliens had given them 24 hours to evacuate, but Chen knew that abandoning the frontier settlements wasn't an option. Over 2 million colonists called the Outer Rim territories home, scattered across dozens of worlds that had taken decades to establish. The agricultural worlds alone fed nearly half the inner colonies. Chief Petty Officer Rodriguez approached from the engineering station, her weathered face grim with determination. "Commander, I've been running diagnostics on our defense grid. The orbital platforms are operating at 97% efficiency, and the surface-to-space missile batteries are fully loaded with antimatter warheads. It's not much against 17 capital ships, but we can make them pay for every meter." Chen appreciated Rodriguez's fighting spirit, but the tactical situation was hopeless. Delta 7 had been designed to defend against human threats, not ancient alien empires with technology that predated Earth's industrial revolution. The station's complement of 300 personnel couldn't possibly hold against whatever forces those massive ships carried. "What about the civilian population?" Chen asked, though she already knew the answer. "The evacuation fleet could maybe handle 50,000 people if we packed them like cargo," Webb replied. "But we've got mining operations, agricultural settlements, research stations, and manufacturing facilities spread across 8 worlds. Even if we started immediately, we couldn't move more than a fraction of the population in time." The tactical display updated as the alien fleet began moving in system, maintaining perfect formation as they accelerated toward the inner planets. Their approach vector would bring them past Delta 7 in approximately 16 hours, well within the deadline they had imposed. Chen watched their progress with growing admiration for their precision. Whatever else could be said about the Zephyrians, they were clearly skilled military operators. "Commander, I'm detecting smaller signatures separating from the main fleet," reported Ensign Kim from the sensor station. "Looks like scout ships, approximately frigate-sized. They're moving to survey the outer planets." Chen nodded, unsurprised. Any competent commander would want detailed intelligence about human defensive capabilities before committing their main force. The question was whether humanity's frontier defenses would impress the aliens or simply confirm their obvious technological superiority. "Rodriguez, I want you to coordinate with the civilian authorities. Start evacuation procedures for non-essential personnel, but keep it quiet. We don't want to start a panic that could interfere with our preparations." Chen turned to Webb. "Lieutenant, compile everything we know about human defensive doctrine and transmit it to all frontier commands. If this is happening here, it's probably happening elsewhere too." The next several hours passed in controlled chaos as the skeleton crew of Delta 7 prepared for what might be humanity's first interstellar war. Chen found herself thinking about the irony of the situation. For 3 centuries, humans had spread across the galaxy without encountering any trace of alien intelligence. The discovery of faster-than-light travel had opened up countless worlds for colonization, each one seemingly empty and waiting for human settlement. Now it appeared that humanity had been living in someone else's abandoned house, and the original owners had finally returned to reclaim their property. The question was whether humans would be treated as squatters to be evicted or vermin to be exterminated. The response from Terran Command arrived 2 hours ahead of schedule, carried by an emergency quantum relay that had been activated for the first time since the colony wars of the previous century. Admiral Harrison's weathered face appeared on the main screen, his expression grave with the weight of command decisions that could determine humanity's survival. "Commander Chen, Terran Command has received your report and conducted emergency consultations with the Colonial Council and the Scientific Directorate. Your situation has been classified as a species survival event, authorizing all necessary defensive measures." Chen felt a chill run down her spine. Species survival events were theoretical scenarios that military planners hoped would never occur. The protocols were designed for situations where humanity's continued existence was at stake, removing all normal constraints on military action. "Commander, you are hereby authorized to employ any and all available resources to delay the alien advance. The Fifth Fleet is moving to your position at maximum velocity, but they won't arrive for another 72 hours. Your job is to buy time for the evacuation of critical personnel and the preparation of our main defensive lines." The Admiral's image flickered as interference from the alien ships disrupted the quantum signal. "Chen, I won't lie to you. The Strategic Assessment Division gives your station less than a 5% chance of surviving contact with those ships. But every hour you can hold them back saves thousands of civilian lives. Make humanity proud." The transmission ended, leaving Chen alone with the weight of command and the knowledge that her next decisions would be remembered in history books or forgotten in humanity's extinction. She looked around the command center at her crew, seeing the same mixture of fear and determination reflected in every face. "All right, people, you heard the Admiral. We're the thin line between those ships and 2 million innocent civilians. Rodriguez, I want every defensive system online and ready. Webb, coordinate with the other frontier stations and establish a communication network. If we're going down, we're taking accurate intelligence with us." The Zephyrian scout ships reached the outer planets as the station's crew worked through the night, their advanced sensors mapping every human installation with methodical precision. Chen watched their progress on the tactical display, noting the professional competence of their reconnaissance patterns. These weren't the random raiders or pirates that frontier forces usually faced. This was a military operation conducted by beings who had been waging interstellar warfare since before humans had discovered fire. As the deadline approached, Chen found herself standing once again at the observation deck, watching the alien fleet grow larger against the starfield. In 6 hours, those ships would be within weapons range, and the real test would begin. She had never imagined that her career would include defending humanity against an alien empire, but life had a way of presenting unexpected challenges. The communicator crackled with incoming transmissions from across the frontier as other human outposts reported similar encounters. The Zephyrian Imperium wasn't just reclaiming this system, they were moving to reoccupy vast regions of space that humanity had considered safely colonized. This wasn't a border dispute or a territorial conflict. This was an existential threat to human civilization itself. Chen activated the station-wide communication system, knowing that her words might be the last official message sent from Delta 7.
All hands, this is Commander Chen.
In 2 hours, we will engage an enemy unlike anything humanity has ever faced. We are outnumbered, outgunned, and fighting for the survival of our species. Remember that every minute we hold this position gives our people more time to prepare, more time to evacuate, and more time to organize our defenses. She paused, looking out at the approaching alien fleet. We may not survive this engagement, but we will make sure that humanity remembers the name Delta 7 and the crew that chose to stand their ground when it mattered most. All stations, report ready status. One by one, the department heads confirmed their readiness. The orbital defense platforms powered up their main batteries, their targeting systems locking onto the lead Zephyrian vessels. The surface missile batteries loaded their most powerful warheads, preparing to engage targets at maximum range. Every human installation in the system fell silent, waiting for the moment when 3 centuries of peaceful expansion would end and humanity would learn whether it had the strength to survive in a hostile galaxy. The alien fleet continued its inexorable advance, maintaining the same perfect formation that had marked their arrival.
Chen wondered what the Zephyrian commander was thinking as they approached this small human outpost. Did they see the defense preparations as admirable courage or foolish defiance? Did they respect human determination or dismiss it as the futile struggling of primitive mammals? In less than 2 hours, she would have her answer. The frontier war was about to begin, and Commander Sarah Chen intended to make sure that humanity's first battle against an interstellar empire would be remembered for something more than just defeat. The crew of Delta 7 would write their names in history with antimatter fire and stubborn human courage, regardless of the odds against them. The first shots of humanity's interstellar war erupted from the darkness between worlds with the brilliant flash of antimatter warheads detonating against alien shields. Commander Sarah Chen watched from Delta 7's command center as her orbital defense platforms engaged the approaching Zephyrian fleet, their synchronized fire patterns creating a deadly light show against the starfield. The massive alien vessels absorbed the bombardment without slowing their advance, their shield systems flickering with each impact but holding firm. Direct hits on the lead cruiser, no apparent damage, reported Ensign Kim from the sensor station. Their shield technology is absorbing 97% of our kinetic impact. The antimatter warheads are having minimal effect.
Chen had expected this outcome, but seeing it confirmed sent a chill through her spine. The orbital platforms were firing humanity's most advanced weapons, each antimatter warhead carrying enough destructive force to level a city.
Against the Zephyrian shields, they were little more than firecrackers.
"Ma'am, incoming transmission from the alien fleet," Lieutenant Webb announced. Same voice as before, but the tone has changed. Chen authorized the communication, and once again the deep, resonant voice filled the command center. This time, however, there was something that might have been surprise in the alien commander's words. "Terran military installation, your defensive actions demonstrate either remarkable courage or complete ignorance of your tactical situation. We had not expected armed resistance from a species barely 3 centuries removed from primitive chemical propulsion.
Explain why you choose futile combat over prudent evacuation."
The directness of the question caught Chen off guard. She had expected threats or ultimatums, not what sounded almost like professional curiosity. After a moment's consideration, she decided that honesty was the only viable strategy.
"Zephyrian Commander, this is Commander Chen of Terran Frontier Command.
We fight because 2 million human civilians call these worlds home, and we cannot evacuate them in the time you have provided. We fight because these systems were empty when we found them, and we have invested decades in making them livable. Most importantly, we fight because humans do not abandon their own without exhausting every alternative. The alien transmission remained silent for several minutes as the fleet continued its advance. Chen used the time to review the tactical situation, noting that her defensive fire had succeeded in forcing the Zephyrians to reinforce their forward shields. It wasn't much, but it proved that human weapons could at least inconvenience them. When the alien commander responded, his tone carried what Chen could only interpret as thoughtful consideration. "Commander Chen, your species' attachment to claimed territory is noted and recorded. However, these systems were not empty when you arrived. They were placed in protective dormancy during the Great Withdrawal, pending our eventual return. Your colonies exist in violation of imperial territorial law established before your species achieved spaceflight." The revelation hit Chen like a physical blow. Humanity's expansion across the galaxy had been predicated on the assumption that they were settling uninhabited worlds. The discovery that these systems belonged to an ancient interstellar empire changed everything about the moral and legal framework of human colonization. "Sir, that information was not available to human explorers," Chen replied carefully. "Our surveys detected no signs of intelligent habitation or territorial claims. If we had known these worlds belonged to your people, we would have sought permission for settlement. Your ignorance does not invalidate our sovereignty, but it does explain your resistance," the alien commander acknowledged. "I am Fleet Admiral Varexon of the Imperial 3rd Expeditionary Force. In recognition of your species' unexpected military competence, I am prepared to offer modified evacuation terms." Chen exchanged glances with her senior officers, seeing hope flickering in their expressions for the first time since the crisis began. Any delay would give Terran Command more time to prepare defenses and evacuation fleets. "We are prepared to listen to your terms, Admiral Zahn. Your military personnel will be permitted to withdraw with full honors, retaining their personal weapons and equipment. Civilian populations will be relocated to designated neutral zones beyond Imperial territorial boundaries, with transportation provided by Imperial logistics vessels. This offer requires immediate acceptance and compliance." The proposal was far more generous than Chen had dared hope, but it still meant abandoning everything humanity had built in this region of space. 3 centuries of exploration, colonization, and development would be erased as if it had never happened. "Admiral, I need time to consult with my superiors and coordinate with civilian authorities," Chen replied. "The decision to abandon these systems affects millions of people and cannot be made by a single frontier commander." "Time is a luxury neither of us possesses, Commander Chen. My fleet has operational orders to secure these systems within the specified timeframe. Delay serves only to ensure casualties that both our species would prefer to avoid." Before Chen could respond, the tactical display erupted with new contacts as additional ships dropped out of hyperspace at the system's edge. For a moment, her heart soared with the hope that Terran reinforcements had arrived ahead of schedule. Then, the sensor readings clarified, and her hope transformed into grim determination. The new arrivals were human vessels, but not military ships. Civilian transports, cargo haulers, and converted passenger liners had answered the emergency evacuation call, arriving to help evacuate the frontier colonies. Chen counted over 300 civilian ships, their mismatched designs and improvised weapons creating a stark contrast to the perfect formation of the Imperial fleet. "Ma'am, incoming transmission from the civilian convoy," Webb reported. "It's Captain Morrison from the merchant vessel Golden Horizon." Chen knew Morrison by reputation, a grizzled cargo hauler who had been working the frontier runs since before she graduated from the academy. His weathered face appeared on the communication screen, his expression set with stubborn determination. "Commander Chen, we received the evacuation order and came as fast as our ships could manage. We've got room for maybe 200,000 people if we pack them tight, but it's going to take time to coordinate the pickup operations." "Captain, you're entering an active combat zone," Chen warned. "The alien fleet has offered evacuation assistance, but I cannot guarantee the safety of civilian vessels." Morrison's laugh was harsh and humorless. "Commander, I've been dodging pirates and asteroid fields for 30 years. I'm not about to let some ancient aliens scare me away from people who need help. Besides, most of my crew have family on the colony worlds. We're not leaving without them." The arrival of the civilian convoy had fundamentally changed the tactical equation.
Admiral Zahn's generous terms might evaporate if he perceived the merchant ships as a military threat or a complicating factor in his orderly occupation plan. Chen needed to act quickly to prevent the situation from deteriorating into uncontrolled warfare. Admiral Zahn, a civilian evacuation fleet has arrived to assist with population relocation. These are unarmed merchant vessels with no military capability. I request permission for them to approach the colony worlds under a flag of truce. The response came with surprising speed, suggesting that the alien commander had been monitoring human communications. Commander Chen, the presence of additional vessels does not alter our operational timeline. However, I am willing to permit civilian evacuation operations provided they are conducted under Imperial oversight and supervision. Chen felt a mixture of relief and apprehension. Zahn's willingness to accommodate civilian evacuation suggested a level of restraint that she hadn't expected from an Imperial conquest fleet. At the same time, the requirement for alien supervision meant placing human civilians under direct alien control. What form would this supervision take, Admiral? Imperial escort vessels will accompany your civilian ships to ensure orderly evacuation and prevent any potential security violations. Your merchant captains will follow designated approach routes and departure schedules established by my fleet coordinator. The terms were reasonable under the circumstances, but Chen could already imagine the friction that would arise from placing independent merchant captains under alien military control. Frontier traders were notorious for their stubborn independence and creative interpretation of regulations. Admiral, our civilian captains will require detailed coordination protocols and clear communication channels. Many of them have limited military training and may not understand Imperial procedures. This concern is anticipated and acceptable. My communications staff will establish liaison protocols appropriate for civilian personnel. Your cooperation in maintaining order among the merchant vessels will be noted favorably in my operational reports. Chen realized that she was witnessing something unprecedented in human history, a negotiated surrender that preserved both dignity and civilian lives. The Zephyrian commander was demonstrating a level of professionalism that transformed what could have been a massacre into an organized withdrawal. Over the next several hours, the evacuation operation unfolded with surprising efficiency. Imperial escort vessels moved to accompany each group of civilian ships, their crews maintaining professional communication protocols that gradually eased the tension among the human merchants. Chen watched from Delta 7 as the first convoy of evacuees departed for the neutral zone, protected by alien warships that could have destroyed them without effort. The colony worlds themselves presented a more complex challenge. Generations of human settlement had created thriving communities with deep roots in the local environment. Farmers who had spent decades adapting earth crops to alien soil were reluctant to abandon their life's work. Industrial workers had invested their careers in building manufacturing facilities that now faced immediate shutdown. Commander, I'm receiving protests from the agricultural cooperatives on Kepler 442c, Webb reported. They're saying they need at least 2 weeks to harvest their current crop yields. The loss represents 6 months of food production for the inner colonies. Chen forwarded the concern to Admiral Zahn, wondering if the alien commander would show any flexibility regarding economic considerations. His response revealed an unexpected understanding of colonial logistics. Commander Chen, agricultural preservation is a legitimate concern that affects civilian welfare. Imperial engineering teams will assess the colonial agricultural installations for possible temporary maintenance during the transition period. Valuable genetic stocks and agricultural data will be preserved for eventual transfer to your new settlement zones. The offer went far beyond basic evacuation assistance, suggesting that the Zephyrian Empire possessed both the capability and the inclination to minimize human suffering during the territorial reclamation. Chen found herself developing a grudging respect for Admiral Zahn's approach to what could have been a purely military operation. As the evacuation continued, Chen received updated intelligence from other frontier regions. The pattern was consistent across dozens of systems. Imperial fleets had appeared simultaneously throughout the disputed territories, offering similar evacuation terms to human colonies. The coordination required for such a massive operation spoke to planning and preparation that had been underway for years, possibly decades.
Ma'am, Terran Command is requesting a full tactical assessment of Imperial capabilities, Webb announced. They want to know whether our fleet can mount an effective counterattack once the evacuation is complete. Chen studied the alien vessels on her tactical display, noting their perfect formation discipline and the casual efficiency with which they had neutralized her defensive fire. The honest answer would disappoint Command, but it might also prevent a futile military action that would cost thousands of lives. Tell Command that Imperial technology appears to be several generations ahead of our current capabilities. Their shields can absorb direct antimatter strikes, their ships maintain perfect formation discipline under fire, and their operational coordination suggests advanced command and control systems. Any immediate counterattack would likely result in catastrophic fleet losses without achieving meaningful tactical objectives. The transmission to Earth would take hours to arrive, but Chen suspected that similar reports from across the frontier would paint a clear picture for Terran strategic planners. Humanity had encountered a force that could not be defeated through conventional military action. The question now was whether diplomatic solutions could preserve human independence in the galaxy. Admiral Zahn's next communication arrived as the final evacuation convoys prepared to depart from the most distant colony worlds. His tone carried what Chen had learned to recognize as formal military courtesy. Commander Chen, your species has demonstrated remarkable organizational efficiency during this evacuation operation. The Imperial High Command will be informed that human military and civilian personnel conducted themselves with honor during a difficult transition. Such conduct will be remembered favorably in future diplomatic considerations. Chen realized that she was witnessing more than just a territorial reclamation. This was humanity's first examination by a galactic power, and somehow they had managed to pass the test. The recognition of human honor by an ancient interstellar empire would carry implications far beyond the current crisis. The final phase of the evacuation began 72 hours after the Zephyrian fleet's arrival, marked by the appearance of Terran Navy ships at the edge of the system. Admiral Harrison's Fifth Fleet emerged from hyperspace with weapons powered but not targeted, their formation designed to project strength while avoiding immediate provocation. Commander Sarah Chen watched from Delta 7 as humanity's most advanced warships took positions between the Imperial fleet and the remaining evacuation convoys. Ma'am, Admiral Harrison is requesting immediate tactical briefing and communication with the alien commander, Lieutenant Webb reported. The Admiral's flagship is moving to standard diplomatic distance from the lead Imperial vessel. Chen felt a mixture of pride and apprehension as she watched the Terran fleet deploy. These were humanity's finest ships, crewed by officers who had trained their entire careers for deep space operations. Against the massive Imperial vessels, however, they looked small and fragile, like children's toys arranged against ancient monuments. Admiral Zahn's response to the human fleet's arrival demonstrated the same professional restraint that had characterized the entire operation. Rather than viewing the new arrivals as a threat, he opened communication channels and offered to coordinate the final evacuation phases with human naval authorities. Admiral Harrison, I am Fleet Admiral Varek Zahn of the Imperial 3rd Expeditionary Force. Your arrival is timely, as civilian evacuation operations are nearing completion. I am prepared to transfer responsibility for human personnel to your command, provided all parties maintain the current cessation of hostilities. Chen listened as Admiral Harrison responded with careful diplomatic language, acknowledging Zahn's authority while asserting Terran Navy's responsibility for protecting human civilians. The exchange that followed revealed both commanders to be experienced military professionals who understood the delicate balance between strength and restraint required in such situations. Admiral Zahn, Terran Command has authorized me to negotiate the final terms of this territorial transition. We are prepared to acknowledge Imperial sovereignty over these systems in exchange for guaranteed safe passage to designated neutral zones and future access to established trade routes. The proposal went far beyond simple evacuation, touching on the fundamental question of humanity's place in a galaxy dominated by ancient powers. Chen realized she was witnessing the birth of interstellar diplomacy as two species with vastly different capabilities attempted to establish coexistence. Zahn's response carried tones of what Chen had learned to recognize as cautious approval. Admiral Harrison, your species' approach to territorial negotiations demonstrates political maturity that was not anticipated in our pre-contact assessments. The Imperial High Command will require formal consultation, but preliminary terms can be established for immediate implementation. Over the following hours, Chen watched as the two fleets worked together to complete the massive evacuation operation. Human and alien vessels coordinated their movements with increasing efficiency, their crews gradually overcoming language barriers and procedural differences through shared professional competence. The agricultural worlds presented the most complex challenges, as Imperial engineering teams worked alongside human technicians to preserve critical genetic stocks and manufacturing equipment. Chen observed alien shuttles landing at colonial facilities, their occupants working methodically to catalog and preserve everything of value for eventual transfer to human space.
Commander, I'm receiving reports that the Zephyrian engineers are actually improving some of our agricultural systems during the preservation process, reported Chief Rodriguez from the engineering station. They're upgrading irrigation networks and installing some kind of automated maintenance systems that our people don't recognize. The revelation added another layer of complexity to Chen's understanding of Imperial intentions. Rather than simply claiming empty territory, they were actively working to preserve human achievements and possibly improve upon them. The gesture suggested a level of respect for human civilization that went beyond mere military courtesy. Admiral Zahn requested a personal meeting with Chen as the evacuation neared completion, proposing a face-to-face conference aboard his flagship. The invitation represented an unprecedented opportunity for direct contact between human and Zephyrian leadership, though Chen understood the security risks involved. Admiral Harrison has approved the meeting, provided standard diplomatic protocols are observed, Webb informed her. You'll be accompanied by a full security detail and communications team. The shuttle journey to the Imperial flagship gave Chen her first close look at Zephyrian technology. The massive vessel stretched for over 2 kilometers, its hull covered with sensor arrays and weapon systems that followed no design principles from human engineering. Despite its obvious military purpose, the ship possessed an elegant beauty that spoke to aesthetic sensibilities as ancient as they were alien. The docking bay that received her shuttle could have housed a dozen human corvettes, its automated systems guiding the small craft with gentle precision to a designated landing platform. As Chen disembarked with her security team, she found herself face to face with the beings who had dominated this region of the galaxy since before human civilization began. Admiral Zahn stood nearly 3 meters tall, his elongated form covered in what appeared to be a combination of natural carapace and technological enhancement. His forearms moved with fluid grace as he gestured in what Chen interpreted as a formal greeting, while his large, multifaceted eyes studied the human delegation with obvious intelligence. Commander Chen, your presence aboard this vessel represents a significant moment in Imperial diplomatic history, Zahn began, his words transmitted through translation devices that had apparently been refined during the previous days of communication. No representative of your species has previously been granted access to an Imperial military facility. Chen responded with formal military courtesy, acknowledging the honor while maintaining appropriate dignity. Admiral Zahn, I represent not only Terran Frontier Command but all human colonies affected by this territorial transition. Your willingness to minimize civilian casualties has earned our species' gratitude and respect. The conference that followed revealed the full scope of the Imperial operation and humanity's unexpected role in galactic politics. Zahn explained that the Zephyrian Empire had withdrawn from the outer galactic regions nearly 4,000 years earlier during a period of internal consolidation, leaving automated monitoring systems to observe any developments in the abandoned territories. Your species' rapid expansion and technological development exceeded all projected parameters, Zahn revealed. Within 3 centuries, you had established permanent settlements across 47 star systems and demonstrated capability for sustained interstellar civilization. Such rapid development is unprecedented in galactic history. Chen learned that humanity's colonial expansion had triggered automatic notification systems that had remained dormant for millennia. The Empire's return was not motivated by conquest or expansion, but by the need to assess and respond to an unexpected new intelligence that had appeared in their former territory. The Imperial High Command has conducted extensive analysis of human culture, technology, and social organization based on our observations of your colonial development, Zahn continued. Your species demonstrates characteristics that suggest potential for significant contribution to galactic civilization. The statement carried implications that Chen could barely comprehend.
Rather than viewing humanity as primitive intruders, the Empire apparently saw them as candidates for inclusion in the broader galactic community. The territorial reclamation was not an ending but a beginning of something far more significant.
Admiral, what would such inclusion involve? Chen asked carefully. Humanity values its independence and self-determination. We would not accept subjugation even from a technologically superior power. Zhan's response indicated what Chen interpreted as approval.
Your species' attachment to autonomy is noted and respected. The imperial model allows for significant local self-governance among member species, provided they accept certain fundamental responsibilities regarding interstellar law, territorial boundaries, and technological development. The conversation continued for several hours as Chen learned about the complex political structure of galactic civilization. The Zephyrian Empire was apparently one of several major powers that maintained order across vast regions of space, each responsible for managing the development and integration of emerging species. Humanity's current technological level places you at the threshold of true galactic participation, Zhan explained. Your mastery of faster-than-light travel, antimatter technology, and interstellar logistics indicates readiness for contact with established galactic powers. However, your military capabilities require significant enhancement before you can assume responsibility for territorial defense. Chen realized that the Imperial fleet's easy defeat of human defenses had been both a demonstration and a test. The Empire needed to understand human military capabilities before making any decisions about future relationships. Humanity's willingness to fight despite hopeless odds had apparently impressed the Imperial assessment teams. As the conference concluded, Zhan presented Chen with a formal proposal for consideration by Terran Command and the Colonial Council. The document, translated into multiple human languages, outlined the terms for humanity's potential admission to galactic civilization as a protected member species. Commander Chen, your species stands at a crossroads that determines the path of your entire civilization, Zhan said as he handed her the proposal. The choice between isolation and integration will shape humanity's future for millennia to come. The return journey to Delta 7 gave Chen time to process the magnitude of what had been discussed. Humanity's accidental expansion into Imperial territory had triggered first contact with a galactic civilization that spanned thousands of worlds and countless species. The evacuation operation that had begun as a military crisis was concluding as a diplomatic opportunity that could transform human destiny.
Admiral Harrison's reaction to Chen's report reflected the profound implications of the Imperial proposal.
The choice facing humanity was not simply about territorial boundaries or trade agreements, but about their species' fundamental role in a galaxy far more complex and populated than they had ever imagined. Commander, you've participated in the most significant diplomatic contact in human history, Harrison told her as they reviewed the Imperial proposal together. The decision ahead of us will affect every human being alive and every generation yet to be born. The final evacuation convoys departed 3 days later, carrying the last human civilians from the disputed territories to temporary settlements in neutral space. As Chen watched the transports disappear into hyperspace, she reflected on the remarkable transformation that had occurred over the previous week. What had begun as humanity's first interstellar war had become their introduction to galactic civilization. The crisis that threatened to destroy their frontier colonies had revealed opportunities that could elevate human civilization to unimaginable heights. The Zephyrian Empire's offer of membership came with responsibilities and challenges that would test every aspect of human character and capability. Standing on Delta 7's observation deck for the final time, Chen watched as the Imperial fleet prepared for departure. Their mission was complete, the territory had been peacefully reclaimed, and humanity had proven themselves worthy of respect if not yet ready for full equality. The ancient aliens who had seemed so threatening just days before were now potential allies in a galaxy full of wonders and dangers that humans were only beginning to understand. The communication from Admiral Zhan arrived as Chen prepared to transfer command of the evacuated station to Imperial custodial forces. His final message to the human commander carried formal military courtesy tinged with what she had learned to recognize as genuine respect. Commander Chen, your conduct during this operation exemplifies the qualities that recommend your species for galactic citizenship. The courage, adaptability, and dignity demonstrated by human personnel will be remembered favorably when the Imperial Council considers your species' application for membership. May your people choose wisely in the trials ahead. As the last human shuttle departed Delta 7, Chen looked back at the station where she had commanded humanity's defense against impossible odds. The evacuation had saved 2 million civilian lives and opened a door to galactic civilization that humanity could never have imagined. Whether her species would have the wisdom and strength to walk through that door remained to be determined, but the opportunity existed because humans had chosen to stand their ground and fight for their principles. The frontier war that never quite happened had ended not in defeat but in transformation. Humanity's greatest crisis had become their greatest opportunity, and the galaxy would never be the same.